a live video, and I wanted to come to you tonight again with I'm continuing to read the Business Secrets from the Bible by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. And so it's a new year, and back in the saddle again. I had kind of fallen off because I had some personal things that I was dealing with and working through. But it's a new year, and I'm grateful, and I'm gonna start everything off right this year. And so I just wanted to share. I was doing this last year, so I just wanted to share every week what I've been learning and what my thoughts are on the different chapters in this book. And so today, hi Jose, hi Carrie, how you guys doing? Thank you for joining me tonight, and haven't done this in a while. Thank you. So I'm a little nervous, so bear with me, and I hope that this is going to be a blessing for you guys and a good start off to the week. So today, I read secret number 3, and it talks about, the title of this chapter is called "Humans Alone Possess the Ability to Transform Themselves," and that's extremely powerful because one of the things that he talks about is that the one thing that differentiates us humans and animals is that animals don't have that ability to transform themselves. They are who they are, they have their nature, and that's, pretty much their lot in life. But as humans, we have the ability to transform ourselves. And this is, I'm going to tell you a little bit later about my personal situation, and just so that you can know how this is more, how this really hit home for me. And it was also consistent with what our pastor talked about today in terms of just going and doing what God has called you to do. So anyway, he talks about how he gave some different examples about some people from the Holocaust and how they had literally come from Nazi concentration camps and all of the horrible things that they endured, and they came through on the other side, and they just, with nothing but the clothes on their backs, and how they came to America and just started from scratch with literally nothing. We've heard of those stories a lot, but I think we have to constantly be reminded that that applies to everybody. And so, and especially as an African American, I can definitely relate to that because I know about all the evils of slavery that my people came through and the legacy that they left for me of being overcomers and continuing to persevere and endure and continuing to be great and not allow ourselves to be defined by our circumstances or be defined by anybody else, but only be defined by the gifts that God has given us and who we know that we are. And in my particular case, I know who I am in Christ. And so that's what continues to help me move forward despite my circumstances. So that was pretty much the gist of it. I'm not going to spoil it for you all. He gave some examples about how he called Abraham and Moses to the tasks and to the things that he wanted them to do, and how these were not necessarily, there was nothing in the Bible prior to those scriptures about when God approached them. There was really nothing in the Bible except for Moses that led you to believe that they were supernatural or that they were extraordinary, really, in terms of their abilities and what they had accomplished before God approached them. I mean, Abraham, there was nothing about his life in terms of him being extraordinary. Moses actually was a murderer before God approached him. And so it was just encouraging to me to let me know that God can use anybody. And the other thing that he talked about, he pointed out the fact that not only was Moses a murderer before God approached him to lead the children out of Israel, to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, he talked about, he was really resistant to doing what God wanted him to do because he said, I have a speech impediment. And so I'm not a accomplished speaker, and I can't communicate to these people in a way that's going to be persuasive. But God was not concerned with any of that. He was only concerned with his obedience. And that was one of the things that our pastor talked about today, is that, just no matter what your circumstances, no matter what, how you may be discouraged by what you see in front of you, your circumstances, if you're obedient to God, if you just move forward and stand on his word, he always has a plan. And like my grandma, she used to say this all the time, and I love this when she would say this. She would say, God may not come when you want him, but he's always right on time. And so our job is to only be faithful to what God has called us to do, and to be faithful and constantly developing ourselves and going to that higher standard that he wants us to go to, that he's enabled and empowered us to do. Because that's the one thing that we have power over. We don't always have control over our circumstances or what other people have chosen to do and how that may affect our circumstances. But there's one thing, and this is one thing that I constantly tell my children, is that you may not have a choice over those things, but you can choose to respond versus react. You can choose your response, and it doesn't have to be the way someone else dictates how you're going to respond to your circumstances. That's the one thing that you do have control over. And you have control over how um, things are going to resonate in your mind and your spirit, and if you're going to allow a seed of negativity to grow in your spirit and your conscience, you have control over that. And so to me, that's really what resonated with me today. The final example that he gave that I thought was very powerful, and I think it applies today, and those of us that are older, we've gone through this. He talked about how in 1908, Henry Ford, he created the very first automobile. And by 1914, there were over 250,000 automobiles that were being built each year. Well, a lot of times we don't think about or talk about all of the, what did he call them? There were, let me see, he said in the year 1900, about 110 people were employed building or repairing carriages and harnesses. Nearly 250,000 blacksmiths lived and worked in America that year, fitting shoes or countless horses, and thousands more earned a living by sweeping tons of horse manure off of city streets. And so those people were definitely, of course, I'm sure that they recognize the importance and the excitement and the potential and possibilities of having an automobile. But how do you deal with the fact that you have a certain skill set, and this is how you have made your living your entire life, and you may have made plans based upon this certain type of skill set that is becoming obsolete? Do you just stay stuck, and do you be frustrated and you complain and you pick it and all that stuff? Or do you say, hey, either I'm going to get on the train or be ran over by it? So, and I definitely have a personal experience with that, actually in my career, because things are changing rapidly in the insurance industry that I work in. And I had one or two choices. I could sit up and complain about the way things were changing, or I could adapt and say, hey, I'm gonna get on the train. It's left the station. I'm gonna get on the train, or I'm gonna be run over by it, because the train has left the station. You can't change when in what we're dealing with right now in our economy and a lot of businesses and companies. We're dealing with a demographic tsunami. We have 10,000, what they say is about 10,000 baby boomers that are either turning 65 or retiring every day. And so as Americans, our economy for several decades was built upon the baby boomers and the different phases that they went through in life. And so, when they were having babies, and I'm sure, all the supplies and everything that catered to babies, I'm sure that industry boomed. And then when they went into the workforce, then there were lots of different needs for people as they were growing, their families and things like that. And you had a big supply of skilled labor. And so our economy, grew based off of that. And then, when they had children, and then their children grew, and then their children, needed vehicles. And so, there was insurance, and there were homes. And so if you look at the stages of the life of the baby boomer, our economy has really kind of followed that. Well, now the baby boomers they are retiring, and so they're downsizing. They don't need, of course, they're not having babies, so you don't have, that. A lot of their children are adults. I'm a Generation Xer. My mom is a baby boomer, so I'm having my own, kids and grandkids. So she's totally out of that realm of her life. And so, and then now that the kids are all grown, they're downsizing. They don't need the big house. They don't need more than one car, so a lot of the things that we're dealing with in terms of changes in our economy is tied to that. And so companies are facing that. And so everyone's dealing with it in a different way. And everybody is trying to figure out where they fit in terms of the marketplace, in terms of the new customers. That's going to be the Generation Xers, the millennials, and coming behind them is Generation Z. So, and we're nowhere near the size of the baby boomers. So everybody is trying to figure out how to compete and how to survive and stay alive. And so me personally, recognizing that, I had to make a choice. I had to say, am I going to complain, or am I going to change my skill set and make myself more marketable based off of what I can do, and then add to my skill sets and change so that I can adapt. So that's what I did. So I'm grateful to God that I've been able to maintain my employment, and I've been able to maintain it in a way that's very flexible for me and my children. But I also recognize that that's not permanent either. I recognize that my company is continuing to um, look at things and see how they can adapt and how they can become more efficient and more productive. And that may or may not enable me to maintain my employment. So I still look at my situation as, okay, I'm doing good right now in terms of maintaining employment, but I don't feel a sense of complacency that I can just sit back and say, okay, I made it through all the transitions, all the realignments, I'm good. No, and that's the reason why I decided that I was going to pursue my own dreams and start my own business. And with that, I know that I have to continue to develop, which is why this is one of the books that I read, and this is part of my development, so that I can hone my own skills and develop my own skills to something that goes along with the talents that God has given me. And so I just want to encourage you all to do the same and give me some feedback on what you think about what I'm talking about tonight. If you agree, if you disagree, what your experience has been. On a personal note, 2019 was an extremely challenging year for me. Actually, it's been prior to that. It's been the last few years have been very difficult. And painful. Hey, Rob, how are you? Hi, Drew. I'm not Deshaun. I don't think I said hello to you. I just saw you get on. So sorry for that, guys. I'm still getting used to doing these Facebook Lives. I'll get better at it as time goes along. But anyway, the last few years have been extremely difficult, and I had to really make some soul-searching decisions in 2019. Hi, Jacqueline. And it was very painful because you get comfortable even in a less than optimal situation. You get comfortable because it's what you know. But at some point you have to make a decision to say, hey, if it's to be, it's up to me. And so I could have sat and I could just have wallowed in my pain and my sorrow and my heartache, and just looked at all the people and circumstances that made decisions that were beyond my control, or and just said, woe is me. Or I could say, look, I still have my health and strength. I'm still a child of God. I still have a lot to offer. I still have a lot to do. And so I'm going to take what is God has given me, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to move through the pain, past the pain, to healing, through healing. And then I'm going to allow my test to be a testimony, and not just something that I continue to um, ruminate in and feel sorry for myself and say, woe is me, and continue to make decisions that are not going to be productive for my situation. I can react or I can respond. And so I've made a conscious decision to respond. It hasn't been easy, but because I'm a human being, and so it's just natural to just want to respond. But I know at the end of the day, that's not going to help my situation. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help the people that are relying on me, my my family, my kids in particular. I still have 2 children at home that rely on me, and so it's up to me to respond in a way that's going to be responsible and constructive, and then to move forward. So this book, this secret number 3, really resonated with me tonight in terms of the fact that as human beings, we still have the power to transform ourselves. We still have the power to change and to do things that are going to continue to uplift us and empower us, and we can continue to develop, and that is infinite. It's really infinite as long as you're willing to be open to learn new things. I remember when I graduated from college, I had I had resigned myself to the fact. I said, I'm never going to look at another book. I'm not interested in reading any other books. But as I've gotten older, I have come to the realization and the wisdom that, a lot of those things I was reading, I wasn't really interested in. But when you read and you learn and you develop in the things that you're interested in, it's so satisfying. It is so empowering. And I want to encourage you guys to do the same thing. Take take all the lessons of 2019 and use them to empower you to move forward. Use them as a foundation to move forward in 2020 to be everything that God has called you to be, and you're going to continue to develop. But at least let 2019 be a foundation for a new year and new growth, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm really excited about what 2020 holds for me. I did a lot of growth and a lot of work in 2019. I have a lot more to do personally and professionally, and in terms of my business as an entrepreneur, I have a lot more to do. But it's just gonna. I have resigned myself that, and I'm determined that I'm gonna start enjoying the journey and not just always, because I'm a goal oriented person. I'm always like, well, when I get here, I'm gonna be happier. When I get here, I'm gonna be content. Or when I get here, I'm gonna really be excited. But I have learned that it's so important to put yourself in a position, put yourself in a mindset to enjoy the journey, because it's because once that time has passed, you can't get it back. And so that's all I have for tonight, you guys. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this is a blessing to you. I hope that this is going to get you in the right mind frame to start the rest of your week. And then we'll pick up next week and learn something new, something that we can grow together with. So anyway, all the best to your success. And thank you so much for being with me tonight. It really means a lot to me because I'm still learning about doing these things, and I'm still getting a little nervous. So I really appreciate that you were here with me tonight. So anyway, all the best to your success, and good night.